Hi and welcome to Copenhagen Fashion Week. My name is Ane Lynge-Jorlén and I'm very excited about today's panel that focuses on institutional support of fashion talents. I'm currently located in Copenhagen and I have three very experienced and clever ladies with me today via Zoom. Joining me from London is Ida Pettersson, who is buying director for Browns Fashion. Joining the conversation from Italy is Maria Sole Pastori, who is talent acquisition expert for Bottega Veneta. And also joining the conversation from Italy is Sara Susanne Maino, who is head of Vogue Talents and deputy editor-in-chief of Vogue Italia. Nice to see you all. I'm very excited to have you all on the panel because you have all shaped the lives of fashion talents globally, from scouting to retail and beyond. I'd like to begin with Sarah. You started Vogue Talents in 2009, which was first conceived as a supplement to Vogue Italia, showing the most exciting and strong international emerging designers. It has now grown into a much larger institution with exhibitions, portfolio reviews, special projects on sustainable startups and beyond. I'm very interested in hearing sort of how you select the designers that you feature in Vogue Talents.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all. And well, I mean, it's always kind of a question that they always ask about how we select the talents, and it's I mean, there's not really kind of a rule or a vademecum to follow. I do think that talent can be expressed in many ways, and obviously throughout these past years, the vision and the message that designers want to give have kind of almost completely changed, because obviously what's happening in this challenging moment, but also all the changes that want to be linked to be more responsible. But obviously, if I have to giving an answer to your question, would be obviously to see always a very clear message and vision that designer wants to give, and it's not just a matter of the aesthetic of the garment, but it's also where they want to reach and who are their consumers. And also it's very important the message, because right now it's not just about the clothes, it's about also what's behind the brand. So I always push designers to really pull out this side of it, because I mean, not that we need really much clothes still on the market, but I do think we need messages and changes. So this is something I look most of when I see designers. But obviously, the quality is also very important, because it's about quality and not quantity. So for designers that start, it's always important to tell them that you can do your collection with 6 or 7 pieces, and if it has a really straightforward message, it's totally fine. It doesn't have to be a huge collection. So also quality is very important.
Yeah, okay. Maria Sole, you worked in various roles promoting and acquiring talents in the industry, from its international talent support to Florian de Saint-Pierre to Eyes on Talents, and now for Bottega Veneta. So you've helped connect many young talents with established fashion houses and seen many portfolios in your time. So disregarding the obvious aesthetic differences between fashion brands and the various roles that you're hoping to fill, is there sort of a common denominator in what brands are looking for in young talents?
That's a hard question as well. I don't think there's a common denominator, but when I look for talent, it's really for companies, so it's a bit different. And when you have to be part of a team, I think, and facing in front of equal talent, I think something extremely important is personality as well. So of course it's about the skill set, but it's also about how you will promote your work and you are perceived as a designer. So that's definitely something that maybe we don't speak about. But there needs to be a mix between having something to say and also really being part of a team and a collective and being fine with that. But I think that the one element that I most look at is the creative process. That's something that varies enormously from designer to designer, from creative director to creative director, and that has to fit mostly. I think so. There's room for a lot of designers, in fact.
Yeah.
In that sense.
What would you say is the most important aspect of your job? It's also perhaps a big question.
Yes. Well, I think it's this double assessment about the skill set, but then it's about once you have identified many designers who have the right aesthetic fit, who have the right skill set for the role. It's about which designer who will be the best, happiest person in the team that I have in front of me.
Yeah. So, Ida, before joining Browns as a buying director, you were a buyer for Harvey Nichols and Net-a-Porter. So, in other words, you know the upper echelons of fashion buying. Now, Browns is not just a legendary boutique, it's an institution. And the founder, Joan Bernstein, is known to have bought John Galliano's graduate collection. And Browns today still supports many young talents. I'd be interesting to know what you're looking for when you're out hunting for new emerging talents for Browns.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ane, by the way. Always a pleasure. Just sad I can't be there in real life. For us, we're extremely lucky, and you mentioned this, Browns has got this amazing heritage, and Mrs. B, she created this wonderful universe for emerging talent and established luxury brands as well. And because we are able to buy all of these top tier brands, for us, the new talent really need to have excitement. It needs to have a real point of difference. We're not looking for a version of Bottega because we're lucky enough to have Bottega. So that identity and standard design is really, really key for us. And they could be something completely different. It doesn't have to follow the trends. We love when someone's got their own complete, unique way of looking at things. That's even more exciting to us in some ways.
Yeah. So going back to Sarah, I know part of your work for Vogue Talents is you do a lot of portfolio reviews, and having a strong portfolio is obviously vital. What, in your opinion, is key to putting together a strong portfolio?
Well, this also it's connected to what I said before. I see a lot of portfolios throughout the year, and sometimes I remain a little bit not happy about it because I see that there are some schools that kind of influence too much the student. I mean, I think that the education it's fundamental, especially for everyone, but even for students that want to become designers. But I also think that when you're in school, it's that moment of your lifetime that you can really be creative and be free as much as you can, because then, when you go out of school and you begin to face the world and the world of work, it's about compromises, because obviously then you go and work for designers or in a team, and obviously working in team is very important. So it's very important in this portfolio. You have to always consider it's like your mirror, because most of the time, I mean, we see portfolios and maybe we don't have, the possibility of seeing physically the person, especially in the last 5 months. And so this is something which has to be kind of almost a mirror of yourself when you show your portfolio. So I think it has to be very personal. It has to pull out the most even personal side of of your character and of your story, because this what is fascinating when you see students is that you discover apart the personal experience, where they come from, the traditions, what they have influenced them. So I think this is already great elements to do a very interesting portfolio. I just do think that sometimes schools give too much direction or influence, and then in the end, the work is a little bit lost. So, what is always the better thing to say to students is that when then you do your portfolio, obviously you have to listen to your tutors and learn as much as you can from what you're studying. But then it's all on you. It's you that you're gonna go outside. It's you that is gonna go and do conversation with Maria Sole, I don't know, for Bottega, it's all about you. The school gives you, the experiences and the tools to become, a more creative and stronger designer, but then it's all up to you. So I think this is very important, not to be influenced too much, and express yourself as much as you can.
Yeah. So Maria Sole, related to what Sarah was just saying, when designers are hoping to enter high fashion, Parisian fashion, and hoping to get a position at a house there, how much should they basically try to adapt to the house that they are looking to enter, and how much should they kind of maintain their own distinction in your perspective?
Well, I think it's very much about keeping your aesthetic and showing your work. So I'm completely aligned with what's said. Put forward all your personal references and influences, creative ones, of course, so that it is easier to undertaking the viewer by the hand, in fact, through your story and your process. But then I always think, especially in spontaneous applications, it's always nice to have a small project with the brand that you're applying for in mind. It's something we ask anyways before filling a position. So, just taking that step before shows that you have strong interest, that you've really thought about it before, and it's about understanding the brand's codes and heritage, but still show that you could have something to say and bring it in some sort of direction. Of course, a junior profile is not expected to do something revolutionary, but if you can say something and show that you understand the brand but have something to say, I think that's a little extra that is really appreciated always.
Great. And Ida, you've obviously seen a lot of talents and bought many talents for Browns. In your experience, what are the most common mistakes that young designers make when they set up their own label?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we see this quite a lot where someone who's super talented gets sort of hailed up and pushed to set up their own label, but they've not had the time or support to set up that back office side, which is equally important to having an amazing design, because logistically, financially, if you can't get the brand out there once it's been bought, obviously then you're sort of setting yourself up for failure. So that's really, really something that we see a lot, where collections just don't materialize, or they're super delayed, which then of course affects the sell-throughs and the sales, which then can lead to people not having the patience to maintain the relationship. I think another thing that I see a lot as well is that people are so obsessed with being produced in a factory that produces big names, but not realizing that if you are in a super prestigious factory that has like that top like LVMH, like Kering-esque brands, then you're going to be put to the end of that production lines. And it's actually much better to doing some research and finding small factory that can really help you and that will stand behind you. And I think the people I see doing that are phenomenally successful because they get that support. And I think, especially in Italy, there are some amazing factories that are family run and they have so much passion for product themselves. And that's really what you need. You need that support, like in every aspect of behind the design as well.
That's a very good piece of advice there. Sarah, you've been doing this for more than 11 years, and I'd be interested to know in which ways the talent landscape and the supply of talents have changed over the years, or if it has.
Well, yeah, absolutely it has, because when we started in 2009, there was not so much on the fashion scene that supported, new designers. I mean, there were a few. I mean, there was IT, which we know very well, that still supports all the new generation of students that come out from schools. Then there were a few contests, but there was not much on the market to support the new generation. So what has completely changed, I have to say that what was not really of interest of seeing, new designers now became kind of, the main focus, because then, as you see, I mean, most obviously there has to be a change of generation, but at a certain point it seemed that this was not happening, especially in Italy. And so that's the reason why it all started. And what has really changed in these 10 years is to see how brands, big brands, but even small brands, really seek talent, because they need to be, nurtured by creativity, and where do you get creativity from the new generation? So I'm happy to see that this has become kind of a very natural and daily way of seeing things. So obviously contests are very important. I mean, just see LVMH that has been doing a contest for the last 6 months, but I don't think that contest is just the solution. It's just the beginning of everything. So these designers really need to be followed and mentored. So it's a lot of work, and this is something that Vogue Talents has always been doing. And I see that then a lot of other platforms were, born also in countries where before fashion wasn't seen. Look at, Africa or Georgia or other countries. So I mean, this has been the big evolution. And then obviously now there's a big focus and attention to be responsible. And this comes more from, from the new generation rather than from our generation, which I don't consider old, but probably have another mindset. And I see that nowadays when I go and see portfolio and designers, and I don't know, I pick 10 designers, 8 of them are responsible, which doesn't mean totally responsible, because we know that it's impossible to be totally sustainable. But they really begin the approach of their brand with a responsible message. So this has been, a huge change and a huge will of doing things better.
So Maria Sola, looking at the same question, but from the client's perspective, has sort of in which ways have the company's demands of talents changed since you started in the field of acquisition? Has it changed, and in which way?
I don't think on the company's side it's changed that much, because it's so diverse, and there's variety in what we look for companies, and thankfully, it depends on seniority and aesthetics. So that hasn't changed, but well, maybe obviously in some way we follow trends. So a lot of brands were more attracted to perhaps street sports, and designers who were more technical in that sense. But that comes and goes and depends on brands. I think that the way talents themselves are visible has changed a lot. And I don't think 10 or 12 years ago you could have scouted as much or at all through social fact. And now, any young graduate will have a social media profile, and I can, without traveling as much, find talent that is more world, more international. That has been a massive difference in scouting, in my opinion.
I can imagine. So Ida, going back to what you were saying before about sort of the struggling sort of startups, does an emerging designer have to be an instant success for Browns to hold on to that person?
No, not at all. I mean, I think, the sort of old school rule of buying was always 3 seasons, because you need one season, obviously, you buy completely just out of the love of the collection. And very much the second season, in many cases, you buy before it's even hit the shop floor. So it's a truly kind of influence and kind of build on the strengths and I guess like the, what didn't work as well, a collection. You need that third season that you can buy with some sort of stats behind it. So for us, trying to maintain that, but at least at the minimum of 2 seasons, but ideally 3, really, because you've got to give that. And for us, especially for these young guys, it takes time to get your name out there. And some, of course, are very lucky these days, because social media can do wonderful things. But at the same time, if you're not inclined in that direction, some people are very shy, and it's not, their forte. You've got to give them that support and stand behind them.
Yeah. So one last question for Sarah. COVID-19, the climate crisis, Me Too, Black Lives Matters, must have affected the talent profiles that companies are looking for. In your opinion and your experience, what role do talents play in sort of helping fashion through this crisis and the needed systemic change?
Well, during the lockdown, I spoke with many designers, especially the new generation of designers made in Italy, which are not just Italian. And what I told to designers, but also other designers, is that right now, I mean, obviously the time is very difficult and very challenging, but when there are challenging times, it's also the time to make big changes and have the opportunity, new opportunities. So for me, designers right now have really the blank page to decide what they want, how the future of fashion needs to be, because we completely know that how it was until the lockdown, there was really a lot not right. I mean, there was too much of everything. And I think that all brands, which I'm not saying big brands, but everyone got kind of, how do you say, kind of got maniac about, being in social network, just doing totally new projects every 2 months. I mean, it was too much hectic and too much of everything. And I think a little bit everyone, media brands, kind of lost a little bit track of what was really the purpose of the messages that brands wanted to give. So I think that now the new generation has really an opportunity to be seen for what they are and to what they really, the message is. And obviously, now the big issue is social media, because there is a very harness, towards brands and people. I mean, everyone is attacked for everything they do. I mean, I'm not going to tell you brands that have been attacked lately, but you cannot do anything that you're wrong. So this is also something that has to stop, because it doesn't really not benefit anyone. I mean, obviously, Black Lives Matter is important. It's something that has to have voice, and it's something that brands in the fashion industry have to think. But it's not that now from today onwards. I mean, if you don't have a Black person, you're wrong. I mean, I think that here it's about talent, about choosing and seeing everyone. It's not about the race. Obviously, people have to be seen for their talent, and not and not for the color of the skin they have. So I think this is something that even it's a little bit losing track, but at the same time, the fashion system had its wrong way of seeing things, and obviously it has to reset. But it cannot always be you're wrong, you're wrong, we're wrong. Obviously, then big brands are more easily attacked, because it's much easier to attack big ones than smaller ones. So I do think that going back to the new generation, they really have a blank page and write their own manifesto, because even for all designers that they say, what I'm going to do in September, what should I do? And I tell them, do what you feel to do, because there's not going to anyone judge you, because right now in September, I mean, nothing is going to change much more than now or a month ago. I mean, there are going to be a little bit more physical events, but the problem is still there. It's not that it has left with the summer. So I think they have really the chance to do what they want, nobody judging them, and, be more personal and more as they are than ever, and not really listen too much, but really think of with their head.
Okay, thank you. So on that empowered note, thank you all, Sarah, Maria Sole and Ida, for sharing your insights with me today. And thank you all for tuning in to my live talk from Copenhagen Fashion Week.